Hello everyone, it's SilverFoxSpectre, and today I'm going to be giving you a brief overview of everything that there is to show in the Orium Datapack. Now I'm not going to go in depth for most things because you've already seen them or I have videos on them already, whatever. However, any changes that I've made or any additions that I've made in the last week, 2 weeks, whatever, those are what you're going to see. So, for starters, the dropper workbench situation now looks a little bit better. It actually has what I think is a half decent texture, good merging between the two, and it works exactly as it did before, where you put the items in and then it pops the item out on top. So, first things first, here are all of the items that this adds. Not this is just here for reasons, but here's what it adds. It adds 3 different metal alloys: iron wire, electrium, and diamond steel. Iron wire and electrium can each be made into these machines. Now, for starters, we have the mineral compressor, which is crafted. Is actually one of the few that doesn't require those alloys, because you need this to get those alloys. So, you put, what do you call it? If you take 4 stone bricks, 4 blaze rods, and a hopper, and put them in this configuration, because I changed the recipe, I'm showing it, you'll get mineral compressor, which can be placed in this little structure, which I have a video covering that as well. Can be placed in this little structure, and then if you were to take, say, iron and, let's see, where is it? 2 redstone dust and a blaze powder. You can put them in like this. Blaze powder has to be placed manually, and then a little progress bar will show up, and it will smelt or mix, I don't know exactly what the word is, into iron wire. So that's how you get all those. They have different recipes. That's gone over in a different video. Electrium is now actually 2 gold and 8 glowstone, which I am going to show because I changed it. As I say, anything that I changed or added, I'm going to be going over today. So if I place that, I'll see it will just slowly consume itself. And then, boom, electrium. Okay, so you can see that works. Diamond steel hasn't changed from before. Then, next on the list of machines, we have the Thermic Oven. This one I've had for a while, but I never made a video on because I didn't really know what else to put with it. It's a little bit brief, but the gist of it is, you place a Thermic Oven down. It'll say place successfully because it doesn't make a noise or have custom textures, so I want to be sure. And you'll notice the fuel slot's empty. That's because you actually place lava behind it, and then it will fuel itself indefinitely. It is actually pretty nice because, yeah, you don't need to ever refuel. So that's, yeah. What do we need for this? We need 4 electrium, 4 blaze rods, and this one is a furnace. And a furnace, and a similar configuration to the mineral compressor. Just like that, and now it's a thermic oven. And just renaming a furnace to a thermic oven, by the way, if I were to take this furnace and rename it to thermic oven, spelled exactly the same way, it doesn't work. This will not be a thermic oven. This is a thermic oven. You can only get it from crafting it. I have checks in place to be sure of that. So, yeah. If you want infinite fuel, there you go. Just invest in some lava and electrium and stuff. Electrium is highly expensive, and there's a good reason for that. Next we have, what do we have next? We have the deep storage unit. I have a video covering this already, so I'm not going to go over it too much other than just say, yeah, it can store 33.5 million stacks of items in here. It's got 2 input slots and 1 output slot, and it can even store things with MBT. So if I want to put, say, laser drills in here, it can do that. I'm going to put another stack in. And the reason there's 2 slots is actually so you can shift click it in, because it will fill this to 64 and then put 1 here. But I can remove all of those, and I have all that I put in. So let's say 2 stacks, 2 stacks, just like that. And then next is the Quarry. The Quarry is basically the same as you remember it, if you saw my video on that. I'll probably have a link to all these videos in the description, if I remember. and then you can place one of those next to it. You can place another one of these next to it, somewhere over here or something. Not there. I'm gonna place it there, and then actually for ease, I'll do that. There we go. And then you place another one because in 1.14 you can't place, what do you call them? You cannot place redstone torches on top of hoppers. It has to be another one of those. So yeah. So that's the only way that changed. The quarry works exactly the same as it did before, except now it requires end rods, entirely end rods, no redstone torches at all. The laser drill and the laser drill arc generator I have already covered in another video, so you already know how these work. I'm not going to go over them now. But yeah, these are the 6 different machines. Thermic Oven only kind of counts as a machine. These are the 6 different machines that I have added in this data pack. Now, then there's also the diamond steel tools. Now, I've made a video on these, and the diamond steel axe and pickaxe work exactly as they did before. The pickaxe mining a little hole straightforward, and the diamond steel axe taking out an entire tree. But the diamond steel sword no longer has the life steal effect. I'm actually kind of lost as to what to put on this. So if you have any suggestions, let me know. But as of now, it's just a cool looking diamond sword. It doesn't actually have any special properties. I might just make it so it has more attack damage. But that's all that I can really think to do. But the pickaxe and axe still work the same way and are crafted the same way as they are before. So there's a video for that as well, probably in the description. So then, last but not least, is this divining rod here. Now, I'm just going to put this, well, it says obtaining rod. That's not actually correct. It's supposed to be called divining rod, but we'll get to that. Because now I have to cover part 2 of this data pack, which isn't machines, but rather divinities. So, you are vaguely familiar with divinities if you've seen my video on that, where they can be applied to items and they do things. Now, I've added a lot more data for them and made them a little bit more interesting. There's more depth to them. They're not just, oh yeah, you can get books from fishing that may or may not be able to do this. No, now it's a little bit better. So, if I just hover over this, you see it says Divine Book, but then it also says what the divinity is, its rarity. In the red, it says its rarity, but the color changes depending on the rarity. In green, it has the description, and then the purple tag is actually what it can be applied to. Now, this says the divinity is called Everlasting. It's an uncommon divinity that the item that it's put on can no longer break from usage. What this doesn't say is that it also won't despawn in your world. So if you drop the item, it won't despawn. And it can be applied to any consumable item, anything with durability that has Unbreaking 3. Now, you can actually put this on any item as long as it has Unbreaking 3. The enchantment's the only thing it checks for, but the light purple part tells you what it will work well on. The dark purple part tells you what the actual requirements are of the item. And there's one exception to this in all of these. So if you remember Aura of War, well, now it's a rare divinity that grants superior strength in combat, which now it's different. It doesn't always give you strength 3. It will give you 20 seconds of strength 3 whenever you hit something. So the first hit doesn't actually apply it, but all the following ones do. It can be applied to a main hand weapon with sharpness 5, or a trident with impaling 5. Now, again, it doesn't actually need to be a trident or a weapon, but it needs to have either the sharpness 5 enchantment or the impaling 5 enchantment. Now, I'm just going to go through all of these briefly and tell you what they can go on, what they're effective on. So, Soul of the Sea. It's a common one, grants eternal water breathing. That can be applied to a headpiece. Now, this needs Respiration 4 and Aqua Affinity. And then Spirit Vision, which is common. This has a long description. Basically, it lets you see things from 16 blocks away, but gives you blindness. So it's kind of balanced. That's why it's common instead of something rare, is because it's got a cost to it. Now this one, wait, one of these two. Never mind, these are fine. These just, yeah, this doesn't require any enchantment as this does. Sorry, I was thinking something else. Recovery, uncommon, grants superior regeneration and less starving. On a chest piece, which includes Elytra, this will give you regeneration 2 if your food, if you have more than 6 points of food out of 20. So basically, if you can sprint, you also will get this regeneration effect, providing that you're not at full health. If you have less than 10 full hearts, then you'll get that effect. So now you don't have all these random status effects always on you. Hell's Mercy, uncommon, grants immunity to flames. This would be rarer, except for the fact that you require fire protection 4. So rarity combined with the requirements makes it harder to get. It's actually pretty good, though. This probably should be rare, but, I think it's okay. Divine Book, for swiftness, has a common divinity that grants additional walking speed. Go figure. It just gives you speed, too, whenever you're wearing them. Apply to legwear. Wave Rider, common, additional swimming speed. Well, wouldn't have guessed, right? Also applies to legwear. These don't require enchantments. They're common. They're not that great. They just make you move faster. So I think that's pretty simple. Boots, gravity magic. Common divinity that grants additional jumping height. It's applied to footwear that has feather falling 4. It needs feather falling 4 to get the additional jump height effect. Now, when I say diamond helmet, it could actually be anything that you put on your head. It could even be a turtle shell. This doesn't really make sense to put on a turtle shell, but it can go on a turtle shell, technically. Providing, it has aspiration 4 and aqua affinity, which is kind of pointless to put on a turtle shell, but whatever. Diamond chest plates. This can actually go on elytra as well as any tunic or chest plate that there is. Diamond leggings, any leggings. Diamond boots, any boots, actually. So the diamond is just because that's probably what you're going to want to put it on. Then we have Hellwalker, which is an epic enchantment, or epic divinity. It grants the ability to walk across lava, permanently turning that lava into obsidian, which is pretty good, so that's why it's epic. It's applied to footwear that has Frostwalker 2, so you need to be able to walk on water before you can walk on lava, which I think is fair. So if you have, since Frostwalker 2 and, and Depth Strider are mutually exclusive, you cannot have both on the same pair of boots. If you have Depth Strider, you can't have Hellwalker. Now, this little tag for rarity, the common, uncommon, epic, actually does affect the likelihood of you getting them. I have a function currently in place so I can get 72 books at a time, so I can try to get as many as I can, and maybe 1 out of every 5 times I'll actually get a very specific epic book. I'll get 1 or 2 epics, if I'm lucky, each time, out of 72, so that's pretty good. It's not too broken. Commons you're going to get tons of. So these commons, there's 8 of them. They're twice as likely to occur as uncommon, and there's 7 of those, and they're each one twice as likely to occur as a rare, and there's 5 of those, each one twice as likely to occur as an epic. So, yeah, these are exceptionally rare and kind of hard to get. So, I think that's kind of balanced. Then, swords. Aura of War, as you can see, sharpness 5, but it can also go on a trident. It's effective on a trident, and throwing the trident doesn't lose the divinity or anything, so that's pretty great. Frostbite, uncommon, which paralyzes enemies for a short time. Now, it just gives them slowness 4 for like 10 seconds or something like that. And it affects all mobs that you hit, so if you, it affects up to 5 mobs that you hit. So with the sword, the swing effect will affect 5 mobs. Now, throwing a trident with these things on it doesn't work. You'd have to hit with the trident, which is more effective than a diamond sword, but alas. Toxicity. It's a rare one that inflicts lasting wounds upon enemies. So this gives Wither 2 to mobs for 7 seconds when you hit with it. And then Vampirism is an epic one that steals the very life from enemies. So actually, whenever you hit something, you get 2 hearts of health back if you didn't kill it. So even if you attack multiple mobs, so let's say you're using the sword swing effect to attack, say, 7 mobs, right? You're still only going to get the Vampirism effect once, as long as at least one of those mobs you hit is still alive. So it's both a minimum and a maximum of 2 hearts, just because the only way to add health is with the instant health effect, and you can't really customize it all too much. Each level makes it more and more overpowered. I can't just make it 1/2 heart or something like that. So Vampirism is epic for that reason, because it's really good, and it's actually really hard to die if you have this on your weapon. And then Excavation, for tools, is a common divinity that grants mining proficiency. So if you have, it will give you haste 2 whenever it's in your main hand. and it's applied to any tool that has efficiency 5. So you already need that to do it, which is, I mean, this is actually very likely for you to want to get an Instamine Stone if you have this in your main hand, but there's not really anything else to it. Now, you'll notice that this says handheld item. Before I explain what it is, well, I might as well explain what it is. Expertise, common, divinity, that increases experience gain. It's pretty straightforward. This, notice how this says applied to handheld item. This will work in either hand. You can put it on anything, any item, and as long as you're holding that item in your main hand or offhand, it will give you that effect. These all say main hand, except Trident, but that's only going to work in your main hand anyway. These effects only apply if the item with this divinity is in your main hand, because all 5 of these affect things that you hit with. So it doesn't make sense for it to work in your offhand. You can't hit with your offhand. Expertise, this one just is a radius effect thing. Any experience orbs within a certain range of you will get a boost to how much they're worth. Magnetism, uncommon, item pickup radius is increased to 7 blocks. Apply to a handheld item. It's pretty good. I mean, especially if you're like mining over lava, the item will go into your inventory before it before it burns or anything. So that's great. But if it has to travel through lava to get to you, it will be destroyed by the lava. So keep that in mind. Then luck is an epic one that grants infinite luck 5. Yeah, it's extremely overpowered. That's why it's epic. Especially if you put it on, say, a fishing rod, because fishing is one of the few ways to get divinities. Maybe in the future I'll make them craftable, but for now they're not. It can be applied to any handheld item, as I say, and it gives you infinite luck 5, which really tips tables for divinities. However, the likelihood of each divinity, so the fact that an epic is rarer than a common, is consistent regardless of luck. It's just the likelihood of you getting a divine book goes up. Next is bows. Split fire, uncommon. You've seen this before. Multiple arrows get fired, but you also get multiple taken out of your inventory. If you don't have enough, it won't work, but if you have an divinity, it will always fire. Tension. Increases arrow damage, speed, and range. This is common because it's not that great, but it is, I mean, it's good, but it's not that great. It triples the arrow velocity, which does increase damage and makes it basically a sniper, but again, that's it. It will maintain any kind of flame effect it has, though. Then scatter is rare because when sneaking, it sprays in all directions, but they don't get any effects, so there's no tipped arrow effects or anything like that. So yeah. Next is crossbows, because crossbows are in 1.14. I had to add them. I couldn't exclude them. Temporal Bolt. All of these are extremely overpowered. Uncommon. It teleports to an arrow. It teleports to the arrow you fired upon hitting a block. If you have the multi-shot enchant, it only affects the middle arrow. Piercing will be great to have with this because it doesn't work if it just hits an entity. If it has to hit a block to teleport you to it. And that's not because I'm lazy, that's because there's not really any way to check to see if there's an entity directly where the arrow is striking. There's other ways to do it, but it's not that great. Most of them are pretty sloppy, so this is just the cleanest way to do it. Next is concussive, which is a rare one. It explodes when it hits a block. Again, extremely overpowered, and with multi-shot, all 3 arrows get the effect, hence why it's rare. Smiting, also rare. Summons lightning upon hitting a block at night or in the end. It only works at night or in the end. But all 3 arrows, if you have multi-shot, will, when striking the ground, summon lightning where they are. Now, you can put smiting and concussive on the same item. I have made divinity stackable, which I'll get to in a minute. So you can make explosive lightning bolts, basically, which are pretty great. Now, the reason I'm not making these epic is because you don't want to accidentally fire this in your house, or this next to a bunch of wood, or anything like that. I wanted to make this conditional on whether or not it was raining or thunderstorming, but I didn't. There's no way to chest for that. Temporal Bolt, that one's uncommon because, again, it's not too overpowered, because it's unlikely for you to get this specific divinity out of 24 different divinities, especially given that it's uncommon and not common. But yeah, I didn't really know what else to do for crossbows, and I figured that you don't since you don't want to put, Temporal Bolt and Concussive on the same thing, because, oh great, I teleported to an arrow and now I'm being blown up or struck by lightning. That is what it is. Then there is the one that you've all known before, Everlasting. It doesn't break anymore. Then there is, in this corner, a new one that I really like, Fortification. This is an epic one that increases your maximum health. It's applied to armor with protection 4, or it can be applied to regular elytra, shields, or turtle shells. So only armor items need protection 4. This is one of the best divinities in my opinion, and I'm going to give a quick overview of this guy. So if I take, let's duplicate that. Let's take these armor items right here, and then get a shield. Okay, so I have to be able to wear these guys. All right, so if I drop this, oh yeah, it doesn't work, right? Because I need protection 4. I somehow completely forgot about that in the time it took me to walk over to the enchantment table. Okay. That. I don't want to put it on. What am I doing? I don't know what I'm doing. Those both have fortification. That now has fortification. And that has fortification. So now they all have fortification, and I'll put it on the shield. Okay, so if I go into game mode, survival, you can see there's my health. If I put on this one piece of armor, I get 2 extra hearts. They don't fill up immediately, but I get 2 extra possible hearts of health. Chestplate, another 2 hearts. There's plus 4 health for each armor item. And if you have a shield, you get the remaining 4. And you can have it in your main hand or offhand, and it will work. Now, if I go into game mode creator real quick and duplicate this, / game mode survival, you'll notice that even if it works in main hand or offhand, but it doesn't stack. I deliberately made it so you can't put 2 fortification shields and get even more health. 2 rows is the most you can get, which I think is rather fair, especially given that you need to heal to that amount. Recovery does not work with the second row of hearts. So even if I had the recovery on my chest, even if I had recovery on my chest plate right now, it would not give me the regen 2 because I'm not less than 10 hearts. So that's something to note. But it does work really nicely, and again, it's epic for a reason. Now, you might have remembered that I said that you can put multiple divinities on an item. Well, let's do that. Let's take Aura of War, Frostbite, Toxicity, and Vampirism. Let's do this. Let's put Aura of War on. Oh, that's right, it needs Sharpness 5. I forget sometimes what the requirements are. That's why I have the requirements in the book description. Oh, and something else you'll notice. This has a long description. As soon as you put it on an item, the description's gone. And that's also intentional. Because since they can stack on items, I don't want all of that data just being displayed at once. So I got Aura of War on here. Now let's put the next one on. Frostbite. Well, it doesn't need an enchantment. Why isn't it working? It's actually because the item needs to be purified to put on a second divinity. How do you purify it? Well, this is where things get interesting. I'm just going to get rid of these. I don't need those. I just need one of those, and one of those. So I got the other 3. Okay, cool. This guy has a divining table, or a divining altar, rather. How do you make it? Well, I'll make it real quick. It's not too hard. You need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, I can't count. Don't mind me. Make a 5x5 platform of quartz blocks. It needs to be quartz blocks. And then place a little X almost in it with glowstone. The middle one does not need to be glowstone, but you are going to place an enchanting table there. Then you're going to use a divining rod, which I'll show you how to craft in a minute. Shift, right click on it, and it will create the divining altar. And you'll get these little particle effects and all that. If any part of this breaks, after a second or two, it will update and it will, yeah, it's no longer a divining altar. And you need to recast it with a divining rod, which has infinite durability, where it doesn't get used by doing this at least. You break this, of course, it stops as well, so that's a thing. But yeah, I just have a little extra frame for detail. It doesn't really matter. Now, something else that matters is that this altar requires sky access. So, first of all, you can't place any blocks here. Any blocks in this area will deactivate the divining table. It can't do it with any blocks there. It doesn't even matter if it's just that one. It needs to have all those blocks gone. Then, additionally, if I were to do this, make the divining table. It's got the particles and all that. Place a block above it. Then it'll cease to work. It needs sky access. It will only be able to go through air or glass. Air and glass are the only things that can be above it. And it can be any stained glass as well, but those are the only things that can be in a direct line above it, all the way to build height limit. It checks that entire area. So, yeah, you can have it inside a building, but it needs sky access. Keep that in mind. Now, what you actually do is you place the item on the altar with another star. Now, you notice nothing's happening? It actually only works at midnight. So if I were to do time set, let's go with 17,900. Or no, not 900. Let's go with 800. Just like that. Okay? So it's almost midnight. It's not quite midnight. I drop this on, and I drop the nether star on. Slash, not time. Game rule. Do daylight cycle. True. The moon. Really? 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 Come on, man. Anyway, as I was saying, if you have the divine item and a nether star on a divining table at midnight, you'll get that little particle effect and that little burst. And then if you pick up the item, you'll see it has the purified tag. So purified means that it can get another divinity on it. And you can only purify an item that is divine, and you can only purify an item that isn't already purified. I don't know what I'm doing. Do daylight cycle false. Okay, thank you. Set day, just for the sake of it. Alright. So it only works at midnight, and only works if you have another star, and it has to be a divine item that isn't already purified. Each divining altar can only divine or purify one item at midnight. One item only. And then you have to wait a whole another day before you can do it again. And if you're late, well, too bad, so sad, you're late. And it requires a full nether star to do that each time. This is the balancing for some of the overpoweredness of some of these divinities. So, for example, Aura of War. So strength, then slowness on enemies, then damage over time with enemies, and then lifesteal from enemies. Guess what? That's a pretty overpowered sword. So let's make it so you have to choose which one you want, and then you have to kill the wither each time after that if you want more. And now, of course, because it's purified, I can do that. And of course, you can divine an item on a divining altar, but you don't need to. Sharpness 5, Aura of War, Frostbite. Yeah, it got the Frostbite enchantment now, but it doesn't have Toxicity or Vampirism. I can't put those on yet. Now, I think I'm actually, before I release this, I think I'm actually going to make it require a divining altar to even put a divinity on an item. I think I'm going to do that, because I do really like the divining altar and the way that it works, and it wouldn't be that hard to do it. So I'm probably going to do that, and it won't work on there. But yeah, I think that's all I had to cover for divinities. Oh yeah, there was one other thing. How you actually get the divining rod. You need a blaze rod, an ender pearl, 2 obsidian, and you'll never guess what's left. Another star. Yeah, again, the divining rod itself is expensive. To be able to put divinities on items, you need a nether star, and then for every stacked divinity, you need another nether star. So if I go into here, blaze rod, obsidian like that, ender pearl there, and nether star in the middle, you get a divining rod, which again is used to, if I do that, let it finish, which is used to, of course, make a divining altar. So yeah, that's how this works. I think that's everything I need to cover. I covered every item that I've added in this, and the fact that you need nether stars for it to work. It now has things for crossbows, etc. You guys can play around with it all you want. Of course, it will be released tomorrow, which is great. Can't guarantee exactly what time tomorrow, but I know that it will be tomorrow. And what else was there? Oh yeah, the Smeltery is currently removed from this data pack. If you remember, there used to be a Smeltery. I have removed it because what I want to do is I want to replace it with a Smeltery that allows for Tinker's tools. In Orium 2.0, which will come out eventually, I am going to make an effort, a solid effort, to add Tinker's Construct-esque tool making into it. Now, will it work with all the different materials that I have here? Maybe. Probably. But what I do know is it will work with all vanilla materials. So it will work with, of course, iron, gold, what do you call it? Diamond, where is it? Emerald, wherever it is. Emerald. Probably prismarine even, for the hell of it. And yeah, so things like that. It will work with multiple things, and I am looking forward to adding that. For now, this is everything that I've added. I've added a bunch of machines, a bunch of custom enchantments, and a few structures required for them. You can check out the playlist that I have. I'll just put the playlist in the description, and you can just see all the different, what do you call it? You can just see all the different videos for each one there. But you'll notice there's some discrepancies between this video and the rest. So for example, in the other videos, this mineral compressor used slate, which was a custom block I added and then removed, because there's not really any reason to add it. It just works with stone bricks anyway, and things like that. The only thing that's really stayed consistent throughout this entire development period is that workbenches are actually just a dropper facing upwards with a crafting table dropped on top of it. That's really the only consistency. Not even what it looks like is consistent. Anyhow, hope you enjoyed. I have had a lot of fun making this, and as I said, the data pack will be released tomorrow. When I do release it, then this video will get a link in the description for the download for it. I won't really have time tomorrow to make another video saying, hey, it's released. So that's how this is going to work. So tomorrow, when it's released, you'll get it. There will be a link in this description. And I'll probably comment on the video as well saying, hey, it's been released. So, I do hope you enjoyed. Please like it if you did like it. I like knowing that people actually enjoy this stuff and think that it's worthwhile, because that's the only reason I'm spending my time doing it. And with my cat here. If you think that if you want to see more of this stuff, please subscribe. I'm not trying to be a sellout here, but legitimately, if you want to see more, I do make tons of this stuff, and I will be making more in the future. Hope you enjoyed. Have a good day. Cheers.